I want to welcome you here for your participation in the scoping meeting for the Surry Power Station Units 1 and 2 relicensing application. As a facilitator, my job is to help the meeting to run smoothly and on time, and that the information that we gather from this meeting is helpful for us to develop the reports that are coming out from in accordance with this application. There'll be a safety report that's coming out. This meeting is for the environmental impacts analysis that has to be done as part of that safety analysis. And the agenda today includes two main speakers that are going to be giving presentations with PowerPoint slides. You can see them through the television screens up above you. Following that, we will take questions from the audience as to the process, not about the plant itself, the application itself, nuclear power in general, anything like that, about why is it that you do it this way? Why is it that you have a public meeting like this and then you do this? Anything about the process itself that you need clarification on. We'll take questions from the audience and try to answer them to the best of our ability. Following that is going to be the most important part of this meeting, and that's your input as the public to us. And what we're asking you here very simply is, what is your advice when it comes to making sure that this environmental impact statement we have to write is as good as it can possibly be? You live here. You're the people that have the contact with the environment here. And so you would be the ones who would be able to tell us, wait a minute, you don't know anything about this little rock quarry down the road over here that's going to be impacted by what's going on, or this little wetland over here that has an endangered species in it or something like that. These are the kind of things we're looking for so that we can make this as accurate as possible, an environmental impact statement, which we will send to you in a draft form, or publish in a draft form for you to look at, and then you get to come back here and tell us what we did wrong, and tell us what we need to adjust to make that final as good as it possibly can be. Hopefully we'll get 99.9% of it right the first time, based on the marvelous comments we're going to be getting here tonight. So let's see what we can do about that. Let me start by introducing the NRC team and some of our guests that are in the room here. The NRC team, we have three people that are from the licensing renewal branch at the NRR, that's the Nuclear Regulation, Office of Nuclear Reactor Regulation, and that would be Manny Sayek. Manny, where are you? There you are. And we have Tam Tran, and we have Barbara Hayes. And Tam and Tran are the environmental project managers, and Manny Sayek is the safety project manager.
Tam and Barb.
Pardon?
Tam and Barb.
Tam and Barb, okay. We also have here with us the branch chief for the environmental and NEPA branch, and that's Ben Beasley here. NEPA is an acronym that we use a lot. It stands for the National Environmental Policy Act, which is the federal law that governs why in the world we're doing this in the first place. We also have here with us the regional public affairs officers from Region 2, which includes this area here, and that would be Roger Hanna, and, oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. That's John Pelshop and Edwin Lee, isn't that right?
No.
I got it wrong again?
Roger's our public affairs officer. You got that one right.
Okay. We have three guys that are regional officers here. We have Roger Hanna, he's a senior regional public affairs officer, and we have John Pelshop and Edwin Lee, who are regional government liaison officers. I think I got it right that time.
Perfect.
Please don't tell me I got it wrong.
100.
Okay. And we have a court reporter here, as you can see up in the front of the room. His name is Joseph Gary, and he will be recording this meeting for us so that we can get a clean transcript as part of our public record. So I'm going to be giving you some ground rules as to how we're going to ask your help in doing that. This is a Category 3 meeting, which is our way of designating that this meeting is to get input from the audience. You're going to do more talking than we are. We're here to get information from you. And it lets us work with the Category 3 meeting, lets us work with the public so that we get as much information that is accurate and timely about the area that we're dealing with, so that we can do our job like I said a little bit earlier. You can submit your verbal testimony or comments tonight after we get done with our presentations. And if you have any follow-up things that you think of later on after you're done leaving here tonight, or on another topic, or you didn't speak tonight and you just have something you want to say, there's a process for you to be able to submit formal written comments regarding the relicensing of the Surry Units 1 and 2. And we will have slides up later on that will have that information. There are handouts out there that have all the slides out there for you. You can pick up a set of those on the way out. It'll have all that information as to how to do that. Okay, first of all, some housekeeping items. The mission of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is a safety mission. And in that sense, I would like to start out by doing some safety and basic things here. First of all, if we need to get out of this building for any reason, fire, drill, anything like that, the people on this side of the house, please leave through that door. People on this side of the house, please leave through that back door that's right over there. Head out through the lobby and across the park, across the street to the other side, and we will gather there. And the reason that we kept asking everybody here to sign in when they came in is that once we've got everybody across the street, we're going to do a roll call. Because if we do a roll call and somebody doesn't answer, there's a possibility that they didn't get out of the building, and we would have to send our stalwart police officers back inside to save them. So we don't want to have to do that. If you have any sort of biological urge that strikes you while we're in this meeting, through these doors, across the hall to the left, there's a fountain and a men's room and a ladies' room. So that should take care of all of that sort of business. Oh, this is a judge's room. There's no food, no drinking in this room, please. Okay, some ground rules as to how we're going to do this meeting. I'd like to have everyone in this room please take any electronic devices that beep, buzz, squeak, squawk, and put them on mute or turn them off. There are a number of people in the NRC that cannot turn their phones off. They have a safety responsibility to be available 24/7, to be able to be on call, and people at some of the plants are the same way. If you have to take a call for a personal reason or for an emergency reason, please make your way outside into the entryway so you're outside of the room. That's for two reasons. One, for politeness, because we want to make sure that we're not interrupting the meeting. And number two, we're trying to make a clean transcript here. And anytime we have two things going on at once, we're bound to have a problem with the transcript. So we want to minimize the opportunity for that as much as possible. If the urge strikes you to take advantage of your First Amendment right and stand up and speak in front of us, we have a little tape spot on the floor here. The reason being is that this is a little bit different for us in the way that the room is set up. The microphone is hardwired into the system here, so we really can't get our transcript microphones to piggyback into that system. We have to capture the sound from the microphones that are in here, and we've stationed two microphones up here in the front, and we've got an X duct taped onto the floor down there that would give us about the optimal spot for you to be standing when you're speaking. What I'll do is I'll call you up, and then I'll call up the person that's going to be next, and I'll tell them that they're on deck so that they know that they got to make their way into, towards the aisle so that they can be the next speaker. And when you get the microphone and you start speaking, what I would like you to do is to first state your name and your affiliation. My name is Daniel Masadi. I'm the facilitator tonight. And if your last name is hard to spell or difficult or garbled in any way, then I would like to have you spell it so that the court reporter can get it right. My name is spelled M-U-S-S-A-T-T-I. And then your affiliation, I'm the facilitator. And then please speak clearly into the microphone. If you turn away from the microphone, they're not going to be able to get as good a recording of it. So speak into the microphone. And there's only a few people here that have signed up to speak, so normally I say 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm going to give us a little bit of leeway here because we've got the time to do that, but it's not going to be any sort of a Hamlet soliloquy or anything like that. 5 minutes, and I'll start looking uncomfortable. And every once in a while, I'm going to have to go to the phones because we have a phone set up here, and we're going to have people that are going to be listening in by the phone, and they may want to make a comment. At this time, I would like to alert India that I would like to have her give the instructions to the people who are on the phone as to how it is that they let her know that they want to be put into the queue to speak. India?
If you do have a public comment or a question, please press *1 and record your name when prompted. Please make sure your phone is unmuted before you record your name. Thank you. One moment for our first question.
Okay, thank you, India. I really appreciate your help tonight.
You're welcome.
All right, the few members of the public that we do have online, the same rules apply to you. Your phone will be on listen-only mode until we get through with the presentations up here at the front. And then what will happen is that if you want to speak, you will let India know, and you will, in order, be invited to speak. What I'll do is I'll go around the room asking for people who want to speak, getting comments from here, and then I'll go to the phone and I'll ask India, do we have anyone on the phone that wants to speak? If she says yes, she will activate your telephone so that you can speak. And when you get done speaking, we'll move on to the next person. It's a very simple process. One last thing. Everybody has opinions. Everybody has different opinions on different things, and some of those opinions are very strongly held. But that does not mean that we need to show any disrespect for anybody else in the room. Please try to keep your comments as non-violent, what's the word I want to use, as polite and civil, there we go, as polite and civil as possible, so that we can have some decorum in our forum here. And with that, I'd like to ask, is there any questions in the room so far? All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the meeting over to Manny so that he can give us the first presentation.
Okay, so we're on slide 3. Thank you, Daniel. My name is Emmanuel Seoff. I go by Manny. I'm one of the project managers for the safety review for Surrey subsequent license renewal application. First, I will start off with an overview of the NRC's subsequent license renewal process as shown on the slide. Starting from the left, the process begins once a subsequent license renewal application, or SLRA, has been accepted for review. Then the process breaks out into 2 separate reviews that occur in parallel. The environmental review, which you see on the top, and the safety review, which you see on the bottom. On the safety side of the review, following the staff's review of the application, the Advisory Committee of Rapid Safeguards, or ACRS, completes an independent review of the application to make a recommendation to the Commission. In the center of the flow chart, the environmental and safety review steps have dotted lines that lead to hearings. The dotted lines represent the opportunity for a hearing in accordance with the Atomic Energy Act, which establishes a process for the public to request involvement in hearings on a variety of civilian nuclear matters, including subsequent license renewal. Finally, with inputs from the environmental review, ACRS recommendation from the safety review, as well as the staff's finding on the safety review, a final decision is made by the NRC on the subsequent license renewal application. The Atomic Energy Act authorizes the NRC to issue licenses for commercial power reactors to operate for up to 40 years. These licenses can be renewed for an additional 20 years at a time. The period after the initial license term is known as the period of extended operation. Now, subsequent license renewals would allow plants to operate beyond the 16 years for initial license and the first renewal. Subsequent license renewals would also be for 20 years. The purpose of the safety review is to identify aging effects that could impair the ability of system structures and components within the scope of license renewal to perform their intended functions, and to demonstrate that these aging effects will be adequately managed during the period of extended operation. This scope has not changed from initial license renewal to subsequent license renewal. On October 15, 2018, Dominion Energy Virginia submitted an application to the NRC for subsequent license renewal for Surry Power Station Units 1 and 2. After receiving the application, the NRC conducted an acceptance review, the first step of our safety review. The NRC determined that Dominion's subsequent license renewal application was sufficient and acceptable for docketing on December 3, 2018. Then we move into our technical review, which consists of 3 parts: the operating experience audit, which we did last month, an in-office review, an in-office audit, and an on-site audit. First, for the operating experience audit, the NRC staff reviews the applicant's operating experience and corrective action database for information applicable to AG management. The NRC staff conducted the operating experience audit with Dominion last month. During the in-office review and in-office audit, the NRC staff will review documents and references in the application in more detail. The NRC staff is currently conducting an in-office review and will be holding the in-office audit with Dominion next month. Finally, the NRC staff will conduct an on-site audit of the plant facility and additional documents as needed, scheduled to take place in April. At the very end, the staff will document a safety evaluation report, or SER. The NRC ensures the adequate protection of public health and safety and the environment through the regulatory process, which is shown on this slide. The regulatory process consists of 5 major components. Number 1, we develop regulations and guidance for applicants and licensees. Number 2, license or certify applicants to either use nuclear materials, operate nuclear facilities, or decommission. And number 3, oversee license operations and facilities to ensure that licensees comply with safety requirements. Number 4, evaluate operational experience at licensed facilities or involved license activities. And number 5, in support of our regulatory decisions, we conduct research, hold hearings to address the concerns of parties affected by the agency decisions, and obtain independent reviews. With license renewal, the regulatory process now considers aging management as represented by the red block and arrow. Next, Barbara Hayes will discuss the environmental review.
So thank you everyone for coming this evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. My name is Barbara Hayes. I'm one of the environmental project managers working on the Surry Environmental Review. The environmental review is performed in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, commonly referred to as NEPA. NEPA requires federal agencies to follow a systematic approach in evaluating potential impacts from the license renewal and alternatives to the license renewal. Public participation is an important aspect of the NEPA process. Environmental review milestones that include public participation are highlighted in green on the graphic on the screen. The environmental review begins with a scoping process, which includes today's public scoping meeting. Scoping is the process by which the NRC staff identifies the specific impacts and significant issues to be considered in preparation of the environmental impact statement. The NRC will consider all of your scoping comments received today, as well as in writing as we prepare the draft supplemental environmental impact statement. The staff will also conduct an independent assessment, including an environmental site audit. The NRC staff will publish its findings in a draft environmental impact statement, which will be issued for public comment. And that represents the second green box on the slide. That public comment period will be the next opportunity for you and other members of the public to participate in the environmental review process. So the scoping process. So what exactly is meant by scoping? The NRC staff uses scoping to determine the range of issues and alternatives to be considered in the environmental impact statement. In addition, scoping comments help identify significant issues that will be analyzed in greater detail. Scoping is also intended to ensure that concerns are identified early and are properly evaluated throughout the environmental review. You are an important part of the scoping process. Because you are more familiar with your community, your comments will help to facilitate a thorough review. You can assist this process by telling us, for example, what aspects of your local community we should focus on, what local environmental, social, and economic issues the NRC should examine during our review, what other major projects are in progress in the planned in the area, and what reasonable alternatives are most appropriate for this region. So in terms of scoping documentation, there's several documents that you should be aware of. The NRC issues the following documents in association with the environmental scoping process. The NRC initially issues a notice of intent to prepare the supplemental environmental impact statement and to inform the public about the scoping process. The notice identifies the federal action, comment period, and methods by which comments can be provided. We have copies of this notice at the sign-in table, which you're welcome to take home with you. The NRC also issues letters to federal, state, tribal government agencies, and other interested parties announcing our intent to conduct scoping. In addition, the NRC issues a press release and newspaper advertisements to announce the public meeting and the scoping process. At the conclusion of the scoping process, the NRC prepares and issues an environmental scoping summary report that identifies comments received during the scoping period and identifies significant issues identified as a result of the scoping process. So, environmental resources. The NRC evaluates the impacts from the proposed license renewal for a wide range of environmental resources, such as air quality, wetlands, threatened endangered species, historical and cultural resources, and human health. The NRC staff conducts this review by building upon decades of previous experience analyzing the environmental impacts from power plant operation. For example, in 2013, the NRC staff published a revised generic environmental impact statement, which identified 78 environmental impacts due to the operation of nuclear power plants. The NRC staff analyzed the impacts to these 78 environmental issues based on the knowledge gained during 40 previous license renewals, as well as new research, findings, and public comments. The staff determined that 59 of the environmental issues were the same at all nuclear power plants. For the other 19 issues, the NRC staff determined that these issues were site-specific, or that the impacts varied depending upon the environmental surrounding the power plant and the operational conditions. Therefore, the analysis for the Surry license renewal will focus on the 19 site-specific environmental resource issues. The NRC staff has also conducted previous site-specific environmental analyses at the Surry site. For example, in 2002, the staff completed an environmental impact statement for the initial license renewal. The NRC staff will build upon any relevant information in the previously issued environmental impact statement to conduct the environmental review in an efficient manner. So for interagency coordination, in conducting our environmental review, we will be coordinating with various federal, state, and local officials, as well as tribal leaders. This coordination helps to ensure that local and technical resource specialists are involved. Some of the agencies we will be coordinating will include the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Marine Fisheries Service, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, the Virginia Division of Historic Resources, and the Virginia Marine Resources Commission. Ultimately, the purpose of the environmental review is to determine whether or not the environmental impacts of license renewal could be so great that preserving the option of license renewal for decision makers would become unreasonable. The environmental impact statement will be considered in conjunction with the NRC staff's safety-related reviews in recommending to the Commission whether to renew the Surry operating license. So in summary, these are the factors that will be considered by the Commission in deciding whether to renew the Surry licenses. It is the goal of the NRC staff to complete its license renewal review and reach a decision on renewing the operating licenses in 18 months from the time the application was accepted. The schedule can be extended to accommodate a hearing if granted. Please note, if you wish to receive a CD copy or a hard copy of the draft and/or the final environmental impact statements developed by the NRC staff, please fill out the blue card at the table in the hallway. And you should provide contact information, whether you prefer a CD or whether you prefer something mailed to you. Otherwise, the draft and final environmental impact statements will be available at the website shown in my concluding slide. So, review milestones. This slide shows important milestones for the safety and environmental review processes. It is important to note that future dates are tentative. I'd also like to note that the Safety Evaluation Report, the SER, is a publicly available report that we will issue documenting our results of the safety review. Also, the Advisory Committee on Reactor Safeguards, NRC, those meetings are open to the public. They're held in the headquarters at Brockville, Maryland. How to submit comments after the meeting. This slide has the information on how to submit comments after this meeting concludes. Comments will be accepted through January 22nd and can be submitted by mail or the regulations.gov website. In addition, you can provide any NRC staff member here tonight with any written comments you wish to submit. Further information. The first item on this slide provides a website to learn more about nuclear power plant license renewal in general. The second item on this slide provides a website with information regarding the Surry subsequent license renewal review. This website also provides access to Dominion's subsequent license renewal application. A hard copy of the application is available near the sign-in table, and the environmental report that is a portion of that application is also there. As shown in the third item of the slide, the application is also available at the Whiteford branch of the Williamsburg Regional Library. This concludes the staff's formal presentation. If you need additional information, please contact Tam, Tran, or Manny Sayak, whose contact information is on the slide above you. I'll now turn it back to Daniel Musadi for questions and answers.
Okay.
My name is Fred Bloodend, last name is M-L-A-D-E-N, and I'm the Site Vice President of Surry Power Station. I've been an employee of Dominion Energy for 34 years, all of them in nuclear. I'd like to thank the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission for holding this important meeting to accept public comments on Dominion Energy's application for new renewal licenses for the two Surry units for a second 20-year term. Nuclear energy is by far the largest source of carbon-free energy, both in Virginia and the nation. It's a key aspect of any reasonable clean energy strategy and operation of not only Surry Power Station, but all the nuclear power stations which produce no greenhouse gases, is critical for the further build-out of zero carbon renewables, which generate power, but intermittently. Surry Power Station is one of the top performing stations in the United States as measured by the NRC and the nuclear industry. Two units at Surry produce about 15% of electricity that's utilized in the state of Virginia. In addition, the station has an economic engine for the Hampton Roads area. We take great pride that our station provides safe, reliable, and affordable energy that is vital to the economic growth of the Commonwealth and provides well-paying jobs for more than 800 employees. In addition to the millions of dollars of tax revenue for Surry County. Taxes paid by the station support schools and important public services, and the salaries earned by our colleagues who work at the station go directly to the purchase of goods and services in the local economy. Surry Power Station has maintained excellent compliance with environmental standards, research, and permitting. Environmental monitoring is continuous. Consultations with the natural and historical resource agencies are ongoing in support of subsequent license renewal, and we continue to report environmental results in keeping with not only regulatory requirements, but Dominion Energy's environmental stewardship policy. We're not about doing what's the minimum required. We're about doing right for the environment. And one of the examples is we work in concert with the neighboring Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries on the Hog Island Wildlife Management Area. The subsequent license renewal for Surry Power Station, whose current licenses for units 1 and 2 will expire in 2032 and 33, respectively, will ensure that the facility will continue to provide not only electricity to our customers into the mid-century, but employment for the people who support its operation. Renewed licenses for units 1 and 2 will mean that the units may continue to provide safe, reliable, and affordable electricity through 2052 and 2053, respectively. As NRC staff will discuss tonight, and has discussed, license renewal is a very thorough process governed by federal regulations and backed by significant research into the effects of aging of equipment, along with a rigorous program of tests and inspections. The effectiveness of our ability to manage the long-term operation of these units is demonstrated by the fact that after more than 45 years of operation, our reactors at Surry are performing at very high levels in terms of safety and reliability. Moreover, the Electric Power Research Institute in the United States Department of Energy have conducted extensive scientific research to understand the technical aspects associated with the safe, long-term operation of nuclear power plants. This research has shown that there are no generic technical issues that would prevent a well-maintained nuclear plant, such as Surry, from operating safely during the subsequent license renewal period. Dominion Energy has performed extensive technical evaluations using insights from various industry research groups, as well as the NRC regulations and guidance documents, to demonstrate in our application submittal that Surry Power Station can safely operate for an additional 20 years. Again, Dominion Energy is committed to safe and reliable operation today and every day. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight in support of the Surry operating for an additional 20 years.
My name's Erica Gray. I came over here from Henrico, Virginia. I have been following mostly North Anna and its license, and have not had too many opportunities to come over here to Surry. Of course, it piqued my attention when I saw that Surry is actually going forward with its subsequent license first before North Anna, which they are in the queue. Following behind, I guess I have to mention from the last commenter, is if nuclear fuel could actually jump into the reactors by themselves, it would be carbon-free. But actually, the whole process of the nuclear fuel chain is extensively carbon intensive and highly toxic. And another 20 years added on to this last license renewal will give us many more metric tons of highly radioactive fuel, spent fuel that will be radioactive and toxic for eternity, which there really is no solution. So I had to add that. As it goes forward with this license renewal, I have many questions, and I guess we can start with, first of all, I was told that Dominion expects, or the NRC expects, that after 18 months of review, they will get this license renewal. 18 months is a short period of time to review thousands of documents if this is to be a thorough investigation or review, or whatever you want to call it. I guess for the most part, the goal is generic, but I think we need to look at site-specific. When it comes to safety, I'm sure that the NRC, as well as Dominion, wants to run safe plans. But I wanted to mention that also Surry happens to be one of the plants that's had the most nuclear accidents and fatalities. There's been 9 people who have died at Surry, more than any other commercial nuclear facility. In 1972, 2 men were killed when a steam valve malfunctioned. In October of '83, a different steam pipe burst, killing 1 worker and severely injuring another. In 1984, 2 men were electrocuted. In 1986, 4 were killed when 30,000 gallons of superheated water in Unit 2 ruptured. Since Surry opened in 1973, the walls of the pipes, which is expected to last for 40 years life of the reactor, have in some spots gone from 1/2 inch thick to thinner than a credit card. And no one knows why. Sorry, I've got lots of miscellaneous notes. Test on corresponding pipes at Surry on the other unit reveals similar erosion. Clearly, as this plant gets older, we need to become more vigilant. So that's specifically talking about just the past. I mean, this reactor, we're already into the first license renewal by 7 years. From looking through the documents, there's still a lot of commitments that I'm not even sure have been met for the first license renewal, and we're already 7 years in. The EMDA report, the Expanded Materials Degradation Assessment, basically has also instructed licensees in order they must resolve issues related to reactor pressure, vessel embrittlement, irradiation, assisted stress corrosion, cracking of reactor internals, on and on. I don't think that if we're just going to be looking at the gall as a generic, it's got to be more specific on Surry, and tests need to be performed, not just commitments before we move forward.
Erica, can I suggest that what we do is give you an opportunity to speak one more time later on after other people have spoken, and give you a chance to look through your notes a little bit more. I really think it's important for you to speak because we don't have very many people here that are speaking from a non-pro-nuclear stance. So I'd like to give you a chance to, sit down, go over your notes a little bit, and arrange your thoughts a little.
All the maintenance reports, the replacement parts, items that actually, and the event reports, because there's always lots of those, but a lot of the those don't actually make events because they get shifted over into a different category, which is a corrective action plans. So the public really doesn't get to see those. We need real examinations. All pertinent information from the manufacturers should be looked at, because in 2016, with the whole problem with Crusoe Forge, when there was falsifying the documentation, we know that both North Anna and Surry have had different components from those different companies. All the data should be compiled. All the exemptions, relief requests, amendments. There's been so many over the years. There's no way you can go off with just a regular gall generic report, because when the reactor started up 47 years ago, it had requirements, it had codes, and a lot of that has changed over time. There's been lots of amendments and changes. So for a thorough investigation, all that needs to be looked at. Also, when it comes to all the differences in fuels, all the fuel burnups have changed over the years. I mean, all the chemistry in the reactors, I mean, all that needs to be looked at, and it can't just be generic. And so I think, for the most part, it can't just be generic. It's going to have to be more thorough. We're only 7 years into the first, and I don't see where there's going to be a difference between our first license renewal and then a subsequent license renewal. We can't just take the papers and copy and paste and put them over. We actually need to have the test. And one last thought here. When I talk about exemptions and reliefs, Dominion doesn't plan on actually looking at the pressure reactor vessel. Instead of when they were supposed to do it in 2013-14, they're not going to do it until 2022, 2023. Now, how are we going to assess that this plant is safe if we don't actually have to do the inspections? If we put off these inspections until after they get the license, that's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
I'm the Emergency Services Coordinator for Surry County, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you guys for coming down and updating the citizens of Surry County on the future of Dominion Energy. Also, Surry County has had a long, outstanding history with Dominion Power, and we appreciate everything that Dominion Power has done for Surry County, and we look forward to a much longer history with you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to come before you tonight. My name is Jennifer Gwaltney, spelled Gwaltney. I am a licensed teacher here in the county for Surry County Public Schools. I'm also a 20-year EMT volunteer firefighter. I'm currently chief of the Surry Volunteer Rescue Squad and a lifelong resident here at the county. I'm happy to be allowed to speak tonight regarding this application for Surry Units 1 and 2 subsequent license renewal. Dominion Energy has operated here for nearly 50 years from its construction phase to present, and I'm about the same age as of Thursday. Being born and raised here, this plant, as we've come to know it, has always been here, and I fear nothing from it. It has always been an absolute partner to the county and environmentally responsible. For 20 years, I lived along the James River and could see the domes of Unit 1 and 2 from most rooms in my home. We always ate fish and had recreational activities, free of any fear that there was any environmental impact. It's a part of life that benefits Surry County in many ways, and of course the taxes contributed to our county is one of the biggest. But that's not all. Dominion Energy has become an embedded thread in Surry, offering more than just their tax money. It offers employment opportunities to the citizens of our county, and these jobs allow people to be able to stay here locally with their families while earning good wages. Many of our own family, my own family and friends, have careers here at Dominion Energy and have for years. These employees don't just work at Dominion, they're encouraged to and do give back to their community, either through their employment contributions to local civic and volunteer organizations and groups, or simply by volunteering their own time in those organizations, volunteering on community projects, constructing playground equipment at our local school just here recently. Dominion Energy offers educational opportunities through its Learning Center with free programs to students, as well as educators on energy sources, electricity, and nuclear power. Our elementary school fourth graders visit there each year and take advantage of seeing the models of the nuclear reactors. They learn to generate their own power. They learn about the nuclear path from the beginning of mining of uranium to the responsibilities that it takes to produce clean and safe energy to the environment. Surry School staff has participated in trainings that were free. We received free teaching materials that we could then use in our own classroom, and we consider them great educational partners. Dominion Energy has been a safety-conscious workforce for many years. To my knowledge, there have been no large-scale emergencies causing any public safety or environmental concerns. Being involved with the EMS as Surry Volunteer Rescue Squad member, past and present chief, I have worked closely on drill practices from radiological contaminations to medical emergencies, as well as hostile actions, which has been coordinated with local, state, and governmental agencies. The diligence that I have seen by Dominion Power to redesign, replan, to take into consideration new technologies and practices throughout the years has been impressive. Dominion Energy works closely with Surry County's emergency management and those of surrounding areas, as well as the individual fire and rescue departments, to offer us trainings and planning for any and all emergencies. Through all of my experiences, Dominion Energy continues to plan and evaluate and to follow its safety plan to the highest scrutiny, and to take any and all corrective measures that they may have found or any advances that come along to plan in a very fluid manner for the future. I personally have worked with and collaborated over the years with Dominion employees through and I feel confident and trust that they are the best at what they do, and that they have the knowledge and expertise and that is invaluable to the continuation of its safe and viable operation here in Surry County. I ask for you to consider in favor of the subsequent 20-year renewal of Units 1 and 2.
An opportunity to speak concerning the renewal of license for Surry Nuclear. I don't think I can improve on any of the positive comments that have been made. Every one of them is certainly true, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. Surry Nuclear has employed members of my family, friends, neighbors, and I know that they are very much approving of what has gone on, and the safety issues that are there are not as great as some would believe. Concerning a previous speaker talking about the accidents that has happened at Surry Nuclear in times past, those types of accidents have happened in every, shall I say, industrial setting. It's a fact of life that unfortunate things happen, that accidents happen, but it is by no means an indication that Surry Nuclear has been negligent in their training, in their safety programs, and the things that they have done to protect their employees and the environment and the people of this county. I am very much in favor of Surry Nuclear having their license extended for another 20 years. I think that Surry Nuclear has been a wonderful neighbor to this county, and it has done everything it could to prevent accidents, and I will hope that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will extend their license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the phones. India, is anybody?
I'm not really sure how you can separate out environmental and safety, particularly, but I just wanted to mention to this lady here, I don't believe that Dominion would want their employees to be hurt. I believe the NRC wants everybody to be safe. That was not my point. I was simply mentioning what has happened at Surry over time and the degradation of the plant because of aging. And basically the reason why this is all being looked at is because of the aging issue. This plant's been around for a long time, so some of this aging, they know the embrittlement's taking place. This has nothing to do with the employees not doing a good job or Dominion trying to be careful, but in particular the pressure reactor vessel is old and the cracking's taking place, and they really don't know how to look at it. The specimens that they put in the reactor were 8 when they started. By the time it's over, they might have 1. I don't know. They need to come up with new methodology and new ways to be able to check for safety. Otherwise, we're riding in the dark. There's no way to really look at those parts. In a reactor vessel, you can't just replace. You can't climb inside and fix it. So I have nothing against the employees. I'm glad they're good neighbors here. My problem is we can't just go by generic goal. We have to go by the numbers, and Dominion shouldn't be allowed to get this extension without actually having to do the reviews, the inspections. That needs to be done. And I don't see how you can separate out that to the environmental, because if we have a through-wall crack, it will become an environmental issue very quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
L-E-S-T-O-N. Having worked previously in the industry, in the service, what she was referring to on the erosion of pipe is called impingement. And it's from moisture trapped in high pressure steam, and it most likely occurs at elbows, just to correct the record. Most nuclear power plants use ultrasound and continuously examine pipe thickness to prevent such things as this. The nuclear power industry, you can't just take quotes for a nuclear power industry without looking at high pressure steam plants elsewhere. They both use high-pressure steam, so you need to use both of them in context, not just separate nuclear power. I lived in Surry County when the power plants were, the reactors were being brought up from the river. So I've been here ever since the beginning. Nuclear power is the most reliable and less carbon intensive. I don't know where you're getting the statement that it's high, the carbon intensive. If you take away the government subsidies for the other power, wind and solar, they are no longer that cheap. So I'm in favor of Surry Nuclear continuing on because they replace reactor heads, they replace control rod assemblies, they replace steam generators. To come in here without knowing the actual history of what's been replaced from something you read online really doesn't cut it. Thank you.
And elected officials here in Surry County. And actually, the power plant is in my district, so I represent Dominion Power through that. But Dominion Power has been a wonderful partner, a wonderful neighbor. We haven't had any problems, as I know, that have been identified as something that is unsafe. And I want you all to know that Surry County appreciates you being here. And I also know that they are also looking into other safe ways of providing power for Surry and other places. And so I think it's a great thing that Surry has such a privilege to be called the home of Dominion Power. Thank you.
I agree with what you were saying about the elbows and whatnot, but what I'm talking about embrittlement of the reactor itself, the part that's not replaceable.
It's a non-starter.
Might be a non-starter, but these guys know the documents I'm talking about. I attend the other meetings. I'm talking about the documents I'm coming from are not just off the internet. I attend the meeting. Roger is very familiar with me. I'm in contact. I'm not reading all stuff off the internet, sir. I am actually reading documents from Dominion and from the NRC and have been involved for many years. So I'm not just making up stuff.
Do you work in the industry?
No, I do not work in the industry, and I don't get paid for what I do either. This is simply a hobby of mine as it goes for energy. I do want clean, safe energy, but I'm saying that the biggest issue I have with Surry as well as North Anna is we need a program to make sure these reactors are safe because of the aging problems that the industry is very familiar with, and the NRC. That's why they're looking at these issues of embrittlement and the other erosion issues. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. The branch chief, as Daniel said, for the environmental review and NEPA branch, and this is an environmental scoping meeting. And so I appreciate everyone coming and sharing your thoughts, your concerns. We really do appreciate hearing from you. And as Daniel mentioned, most of the concerns expressed were related to safety, and that's fine. We appreciate that input. Specifically, if you do have any environmental concerns, the contact information is available on the last slide, and we do the comment period is open for another couple weeks, and so if you have anything you would like to share, we would be very glad to consider that in our environmental impact statement. The mission of the NRC is to provide for public safety, public health, protection, public health and safety, and so that is our mission. We will review this application thoroughly. It does take us thousands of man-hours to review. We do have a schedule that may seem short. It has been shortened up based on what we've done in the past because of requests and pressure from our internally within the agency, externally from the industry, but also from Congress. And so we do have to report to the Congress about our performance on these reviews. And so we do We will conduct our review in a timely manner, but also it will be very thorough, and I want to assure you of that. And so that's really all I had to say to summarize. We appreciate you coming out tonight. We appreciate hearing from you. So thank you very much, and have a safe drive home.